All right, welcome to the call, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We got Breezy as my co-host, along with Paulette, David Jr., Renee. We have Anthony on the call, Bernard, Brian, Broderick, Carlos Rivera, Lana, Marlene, Maxine, Cynthia. Thank you for joining us. And I'm going to, are we starting with a video, Breezy?
Cryptocurrency was created to replace the current financial system. And with each passing day, the crypto industry is coming closer to achieving this goal. This has resulted in a lot of pushback from the powers that be, who don't want to see their centralized money monopolies replaced by cryptocurrency. However, people often forget that money is just a small part of the power equation. This is because money alone has no power. It's what individuals and institutions decide to do with that money which moves the heavens and the earth. In other words, the real power lies in governance. It lies in deciding how resources are allocated. Now, cryptocurrencies have given rise to dozens of novel community governance structures over the years. Some of these decentralized autonomous organizations now have billions of dollars of crypto sitting in their treasuries, ready to be allocated in accordance with the interests of their communities. This means that cryptocurrencies have the potential to not just replace the current financial system, but also the governments which sanction and support its corruption with their monopoly on violence. Today, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about cryptocurrency governance and why it's the final frontier for financial freedom. Before we dive into the future of finance, I need to make sure I don't get banned. Don't take anything here as a financial recommendation. Everything in this video is just for your entertainment and education. If this is your first rodeo, my name is Guy and I'd like to welcome you to the Coin Bureau. This channel is home to crypto content that's so good you'll want to share it with your neighborhood, and you should. Coins, tokens, news, reviews, exchanges, tutorials, and market moves are just a few of the topics I unpack just for you. If crypto makes your world go round, subscribe to the channel and give that bell button a pound. If you've got places to be, use the timestamps in the video timeline to skip ahead to your preferred scenes. If you watch until the end, you'll be one step closer to setting yourself free. That's my 2 cents. Now let's dive into cryptocurrency governance. I want to start with a short history lesson about something you've possibly never heard about. Around 100 years ago, more than a quarter of all people living in the United States, Great Britain, and Australia used fraternal societies for health insurance and healthcare. These fraternal societies, also called friendly societies, were not all that different from the decentralized autonomous organizations we see in cryptocurrency today. Members of fraternal societies would pay a monthly fee into a treasury, and these treasury funds would be used to cover the medical costs of the members of the fraternal society. Because fraternal society members all knew each other, this would prevent any one of them from using an unnecessary amount of treasury funds, lest they be forced to pay a higher monthly fee. Part of these treasury funds were used to pay for a yearly contract with a doctor who would provide basic medical care for the members of the fraternal society on an as-needed basis. Now, at the time, there were a lot of doctors around, and this created intense competition between them to land the best yearly contracts with fraternal societies. This competition kept the costs of healthcare low across the board. In the case of fraternal societies, it meant a single day's wage would cover a year's worth of basic medical care, hence why fraternal societies were especially popular among the working class. Not all doctors were happy about this setup, however, and they called on the government to fix it, and so they did. Healthcare regulators started to deny doctors medical licensing for signing contracts with fraternal societies. They also raised the bar to become a doctor on the grounds that it would improve the quality of medical care. This significantly reduced the number of doctors in circulation, and healthcare costs started to rise. These combined factors caused fraternal societies to fall out of favor, and they were replaced by public and private centralized healthcare and health insurance providers. Many of these centralized parties have since become corrupted monopolies, and medical costs have only continued to rise under their reign. The key takeaway here is that community governance has the potential to completely revolutionize certain aspects of our lives, and cryptocurrency has given us the tools to take community governance mainstream. Now, broadly speaking, there are two types of governance structures in cryptocurrency: off-chain governance and on-chain governance. Off-chain governance is common among proof-of-work cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero, and also Ethereum for the time being. One off-chain governance process some of you may be familiar with is improvement proposals posted by crypto community members on GitHub for everyone to see and discuss. A simple example here is Ethereum Improvement Proposal 1559, or EIP 1559 for short, which introduced partial ETH transaction fee burns to the Ethereum blockchain with the London hard fork in early August. EIP 1559 was initially posted to GitHub in April 2019, and it's one of the few EIPs that's actually been implemented since Ethereum was created in July 2015. This is partially because off-chain cryptocurrency governance processes are not very structured, but primarily because there are many different stakeholders involved in proof-of-work cryptocurrencies. If you watched my video about what happens to Bitcoin when the last BTC is mined, you might remember the concept of the economic majority. If you want to make a big change to a proof-of-work cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, the economic majority must be in favor of the change. This includes Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin developers, and also BTC holders. This might come as a surprise, as we've often been told that Bitcoin miners and developers are ultimately in control of the Bitcoin blockchain, but this is not the case in the slightest. To understand why, imagine most Bitcoin miners and developers decide they want to turn BTC into an inflationary cryptocurrency, meaning BTC would no longer have a maximum supply of 21 million. If the majority of BTC holders disagree with this decision, they'll dump their BTC as soon as the hard fork with the supply change goes live. Assuming the few opposing miners and developers decide to continue sticking to the original 21 million limit, all those disgruntled BTC holders would invest their cash back into the BTC version they support. This would create two versions of the Bitcoin blockchain with different rules and shared histories. Now, these hard forks have happened many times for most proof-of-work cryptocurrencies, notably Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, hard forks tend to be a big security risk to both the original blockchain and the new blockchain, which is why major changes are not even attempted unless the economic majority is on board. In this case, majority doesn't mean 51%, it means 95% at the very least. This high threshold makes off-chain governance a very slow process. It's why it took over 2 years for EIP 1559 to pass, and it's why Bitcoin will be getting its first upgrade in 4 years this November. The trade-off is that off-chain governance makes proof-of-work cryptocurrencies more secure than proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies, and you can learn more about that using the link up there in the top right. In contrast to off-chain governance, on-chain governance takes place, well, on-chain. On-chain governance is common among proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies such as Polkadot, Solana, Terra, and eventually Ethereum after 2.0 rolls around. Now, that said, on-chain governance is not limited to cryptocurrencies. On-chain governance is frequently leveraged by decentralized applications, especially DeFi protocols. Now, while on-chain governance structures often do have their own dedicated forums for discussing changes to the cryptocurrency or application, it's the smart contracts which define and enforce the requirements for tabling, passing, and rejecting proposed improvements. On-chain governance structures often feature a community treasury, which is formed from a portion of staking rewards coming from newly minted tokens and/or transaction fees coming from the blockchain or application. The most basic on-chain governance structures give users one vote for each coin or token they hold, and a proposal is passed if 51% of participating coins or tokens vote in favor of the proposal. Once successfully passed, a portion of treasury funds are allocated to whatever improvement or initiative the proposal sought to bring about, and with a bit of luck, it goes live with no issues. Now, obviously, this basic setup isn't ideal because it makes it very easy for someone with a lot of money to come in and buy all the coins or tokens they need to get their way, or even vote to give themselves the crypto in the community treasury. Luckily, most on-chain governance structures are set up to prevent this from happening, and many crypto projects have come up with some very clever ways of doing this. One of the best examples of this is Polkadot's governance structure, which I'll keep simple for the sake of this video. So, to table a proposal on Polkadot, you must bond, aka stake, dotcoins. The threshold for whether a Polkadot proposal is passed depends on how many dotcoins are participating, with a higher level of consensus required if there are fewer dot participating, and vice versa. Instead of the standard 1 dot equals 1 vote, the weight of a vote depends on how long the dot is locked up for, with the maximum 32-month lockup offering a 6x vote multiplier. Each Polkadot voting period is 1 month, and if a proposal is passed, it can still be vetoed by the community-elected Polkadot Council. Even if it's passed by the Polkadot Council, if the proposal is found to be a threat to the blockchain by Polkadot's community-elected technical committee, the proposal is vetoed, and the dot staked by the proposer is burned. If it all goes smoothly, it takes another month before the proposal is implemented, and in cases of emergency proposals, it can be fast-tracked by the technical committee. You can learn more about Polkadot by using that link up there in the top right. Now, on-chain governance might sound like it's the bee's knees, but as explained by Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin in a recent blog post, on-chain governance can be extremely dangerous. This is easy to understand in the context of the aforementioned economic majority with off-chain governance structures. In on-chain governance, the crypto coin or token holder is now also the miner, and the presence of a community treasury means they can afford to alienate any non-compliant developers since they can just hire new ones with treasury funds. This makes on-chain governance a rich man's world, and we've seen the consequences of this play out in DeFi protocols with lots of VC funding. Put differently, on-chain governance is inherently less secure. Now, even so, on-chain governance structures offer a path to a decentralized future free of overreaching governments, and here is how it can be done. According to Vitalik, the main thing that's missing from cryptocurrency governance structures is a mechanism for properly funding public goods. Public goods are the things that governments are supposed to provide. This includes stuff like roads, bridges, police, firefighters, military, elections, regulations, and various administrative practices. What counts as a public good is obviously up for debate, and it's very true that many of the public goods I just mentioned could theoretically be provided by private corporations. However, the issue is that money as a points system is no good when it comes to certain public goods. Allow me to explain. Earlier, I talked about fraternal societies and how they offered insanely affordable healthcare to their constituents. Now, the reason why fraternal societies were so popular is simply because a day's wage was more than worth the healthcare each individual fraternity member would get in return. By contrast, universal healthcare, i.e. government-provided healthcare, doesn't always give each individual the same bang for their buck. This is because you could go your entire life paying lots of taxes for a universal healthcare system that you never used until your dying days, if at all. Given this fact, many people would prefer to keep that tax cash instead and bite the bullet by paying upfront for health services if or when anything went south. This would increase the tax burden for universal healthcare on everyone else still paying into it, causing them to jump ship too, and then the whole healthcare system would collapse. Now, whatever your opinions are on universal healthcare, it's clear that it counts as a public good, but it's one that wouldn't get funded if money alone was used as the measuring stick because of the incentives I just mentioned. The way governments solve this issue today is to use force. You can't opt out of paying taxes, and if you fail to pay your taxes, men with guns will come and take you to jail. The way Vitalik wants to solve this is through the use of something called quadratic funding. Quadratic funding is based on the idea that if multiple people are allocating money to a particular thing, that thing is worth more than the sum of money being poured into it. In other words, the value of a service depends more on how many people are using it rather than how much money they're putting into it, which is pretty logical if you ask me. The cool thing is that this puts all services on a spectrum rather than deeming them to be a public good or not. The services with the most users would therefore be eligible to receive a much higher amount of funding than the service with the most money involved. Now, I'll just quickly point out that funding the services with the most money involved is the cause of a lot of government corruption. Now, anyways, this funding can be provided to a service according to a special quadratic formula, which I'm not even going to try and explain here. Instead, I'll show you using a nifty quadratic funding calculator. So, as you can see, a theoretical service with 2 users paying $10 each would only receive $285 out of $1,000, whereas a theoretical service with 10 users paying $1 each would get the rest, a whopping $715. If you're wondering where this funding would come from, the answer is that good old community treasury. This would ensure that public goods, aka the most used services, receive the funding required to continue operating. This leaves the final piece of the governance puzzle, and that's a way of verifying that each person participating in an on-chain governance structure is real and not someone using multiple identities. The way we do this right now is to hand over all our personal information to a centralized party who could manipulate or destroy that information. The centralized party in question also has the power to remove us from whatever process or platform we're participating in if we happen to act or vote in a way they don't like. Rather than entrust the user verification mechanism to a centralized party, we can use decentralized identity solutions instead. Though there are many cryptocurrency projects currently working on this, they all work in more or less the same way, and that's to have someone else using the app or dApp verify your identity. This can be something as simple as meeting up in person or having a video call online, and many of these decentralized identity solutions don't even require any form of ID. It's literally just someone saying, "Hey, it's me." Once a decentralized digital identity has been created, it becomes possible to create robust on-chain governance structures that don't depend as heavily on coin or token holdings. The only thing left is to find a way to keep voting information private, otherwise people could be targeted or coerced to change their vote. Vitalik has another brilliant solution to this problem, and that's to mask a vote when it's cast using zero-knowledge proofs. As I mentioned in my video about the Mina protocol, zero-knowledge proofs make it possible to prove something without revealing any information. Vitalik wants to take this idea one step further by even making it impossible for the person who cast the vote to prove how they voted to someone else. It's something that only they would know, and there would be no record of any kind of how they voted anywhere, even though the vote was registered as a for or against a particular proposal on the blockchain. When you combine all this technology together, it's easy to see how centralized governance structures could be replaced by decentralized autonomous organizations. We can expect to see many of these technologies fully operational on Ethereum 2.0, and you can get my most recent scoop about Ethereum 2.0, by clicking that link up there in the top right. Cryptocurrency is destined to go beyond finance, and this is often forgotten between all the price pumps and dumps. To me, decentralized governance is the most powerful technology in cryptocurrency. It makes it possible to do things like what those fraternal societies did with healthcare 100 years ago. And the full extent of the benefits decentralized governance can bestow is nowhere close to being realized today. I reckon it's not far-fetched to say that for every dollar that's lost to middlemen in the financial system, $2 are lost due to inefficiency, incompetence, and corruption in government. As with all things in life, it all comes down to creating systems which align incentives in such a way that the things that people want and need are made readily available to everyone in society. It sounds like a fantasy, but cryptocurrency could someday make it a reality. Now, the fact of the matter is that we're a long way away from fully functional decentralized autonomous organizations that do anything besides DeFi. As the saying goes, the system exists to protect itself, and we're only just starting to see what happens when cryptocurrency starts stepping on the toes of fiat fat cats. Imagine how aggressive the crackdown will be once cryptocurrency starts threatening the government's monopoly on violence. It boggles my mind that not a single government has implemented a voting system on a transparent blockchain, even though the technology is well within their reach. Something as simple as that would inspire an incredible amount of trust from an increasingly distrustful citizenry, and likely remedy many of the social and political conflicts we're seeing today. Whether it's malice or incompetence, the solution is a decentralized, trustless system. Centralized power structures have been tried for thousands of years, and every single one of them has eventually collapsed under its own weight. With all the competition between different decentralized governance structures, maybe, just maybe, one of them will be robust enough to usher in a completely new era for mankind. If this video gave you hope, be sure to smash that like button until it's broke. Remember to subscribe to the channel too, and ping that notification bell so you get a heads up when the next video hits the tube. If you're looking for more content from the Coin Bureau, you can check out my new Coin Bureau Clips channel for some behind-the-scenes action. You can also follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. My Telegram channel is where you can get your fill of daily crypto updates, and my weekly newsletter will help give your portfolio a much-needed upgrade. If you're in the mood to give back, head on over to the Coin Bureau merch store and add a hoodie or tee to your clothing rack. You can find the links to my merch store as well as all the resources I just mentioned in the video description. That's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end. I can't wait to see you all again. Take care and keep hodling that crypto.
Okay, party people. So Breezy, do me a favor. If you could just queue up the next video. Don't put it yet. I just want to have a little discussion first. If you could queue up the one that says DeFi. It's the last one I just sent you. You got that, Breezy?
I got it, I think. Yes.
Yeah, the very last one I just sent you. All right, just queue it up. But for now, guys, let me check the chat, make sure there's no questions. I did make a comment, and I want to be clear on this. I don't know. Let me read this real quick. I'll do my best to research to disclose everything this group has been doing since old members appear in the charts. I will disclose the conflict of Paul and DJ and X. How unfair it is that our only liaison has not reached out to the community, but instead is closely working with FSTSwap English node, which is wrong. Like, so I'm reading what Jonathan said on the chat. I hate that he's like, he's gonna hit and run. You're gonna say something, then you're gonna leave. Like, you know, just stay for the chat, right? This is what we're doing. We've opened these channels so that we can speak. This is not, I'm gonna play 7 videos and then say goodbye. All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you. That's not what I'm doing. We're educating first and foremost. But since you have a question, a discrepancy, you know, we want to bridge. Listen, our entire objective is to bridge the gap between confusion and excitement. That's it. We're trying to, especially in a place where the whole market is going down. I'm proud that.
Carlos, you sound weird.
Can you hear me now?
Not really.
Carlos, you sound far. Yeah, you're right.
All right.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
No, it still sound far.
All right. I'm gonna have to come back in. I'm gonna come back in. Let me leave and come back in. Breezy, get me back into the chat. I'm gonna leave right now.
I feel like we should play the other video, but let's just give Carlos the opportunity to come back in and then let him finish his thought, and then we'll finish the video.
I think Carlos left, he's coming back in. Okay, here he is.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Los, L to the O-S. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and
Loud
clear.
and
Hopefully it
clear.
doesn't change it.
Beautiful. Okay, so as I was saying before, you know, the fact that, you know, and you know, I'm so happy that we have Jonathans in our group, that we have you know, a Billy, a Bruce. Everybody deserves to have a voice, because you never know that there's a patch of people in this community that think just like Jonathan, and that's fine. That's beautiful. We all represent a certain amount of people in this community. That's what communities are. They are an aspect of everyone's voice. You know, if the Bronx can't be heard, as rowdy as the Bronx is in New York, are we just gonna have the people in Manhattan speak? Are we just gonna have the people in the posh neighborhoods in Queens speak? No, we want to hear from the rowdy Bronx. We want to hear from Brooklyn. We want to hear from everybody. Everybody deserves a voice, because we're all living here together. So we're all in this community together. We all have an investment here together. We all deserve to be heard. What I'm asking for, first and foremost, is we're providing this to be the platform, not the FSTSwap. We don't want new international people coming from Australia, from Yugoslavia, from Nova Scotia, and they're like, what the hell is going on here? I just came on here to invest in this FSTSwap, to put my money here, to get educated, and there's like internal squabbling, or whatever it is that you want to call this. So first and foremost, the FSTSwap is not the place to air out any discrepancies with how the project is being handled, because all that is going to cause is for a person to get into our Telegram for 3 minutes and be like, I want no part of this. Maybe they just came from a disorganized community, or a untrustworthy community, or a community where they were doing this bickering. So if we want to bicker, let's keep it internal and family right here. We have a platform for that. Please, let's talk about it. So that's what this is here for. So I want to go back to I'm trying to go back now. Let me see. Okay, I'm going back to the chat. Oh man, I lost it. I lost that chat. Can somebody copy and paste what Jonathan put there so I could? He said something about Paul and Max being part of the English node, and this is the second time he said that, and that is wrong. They want no parts of that. They are not helping with the English node. They have their. Thank you so much. I got it now. You know, so it says, I will disclose a conflict of Paul and Max, and how unfair it is that our only liaison has not reached out to the community, but instead closely working with the FSTSwap English node. That is wrong, because that's not happening. And how unethical this room is performing with the community. I will also disclose your dictatorships within the community, how you are banning members for asking questions you don't like, and that is wrong too. And I'll address that in a minute. I will disclose unfairness, righteousness, a righteous truth. If you though you could shut me down on the chat that you control, not the community, was the wrong thing to do, as maybe your whole chat, and you should be shut down due to politics. Okay, so great. Glad you shared that. You know, we're here to clear that up. Like, that's not what's happening. First and foremost, Paul and Max have nothing to do with the English node, nothing to do with it. They want nothing to do with it too. And we don't even have their votes. We don't have, who knows if we have their votes or not. If we have some of their votes, if we don't have some of their votes, who knows? So I'm not one to say they voted for us. I'm not one to say they didn't vote for us. I hope everyone votes for us. But that is not disclosed. So you know, it's unfair to just throw Max and Paul under the bus at midnight when they're asleep, because that's what it is right now. It's 12:41. They're obviously asleep, and we're having a discussion without them, which I don't appreciate. So the other thing is kicking people out of the FSTSwap. I know that FSTSwap has its own administrators too, and that oh, Jonathan is back. Thank you, Jonathan. We're just discussing your comment. So let me finish my comments and then I can give you the floor. And we'll leave the video for another time. Breezy, this is more pressing and very important. I want to make sure that Jonathan is, at least, if he's not happy in the community, or at least I just want him to be, I want the confusion to be clear. So first and foremost, I don't like to speak for people, but I can definitely speak for Paul and Max, because I know they're not in our project, because we didn't put them in the English node project. So for you to make a statement like that is absolutely wrong. So take note of what I'm saying so you could give your 2 cents after. So just to clear the first thing up, Paul and Max are not part of the English node. So if that came in the form of a question, then great, I've answered that question. If you're giving me a statement, then I would think that these two men deserve the respect for you to bring facts onto the discussion and not just accuse them of being part of the English node, which they're not. Second of all, let me go back to what you said. Oh, about throwing people out and banning members for asking questions. I haven't seen anybody get banned for asking a question. I've seen people challenge the FSTSwap where it was said this is not the forum for that kind of discussion. So before you got back, I said that this is the forum for this kind of discussion, because we're a family and a community who has invested in this project. We know that the people on here, more than 95% of the people have invested in the project. When it comes to FSTSwap, we have new people that are curious to invest in the project, and internal confusion, bickery, or accusations will only make people not want to join our community. So we have to be responsible to show our best light and our best behavior, and even in the innocent and righteous questions that we have, that's not the forum for it. So that's all I wanted to say, but the floor is yours, Jonathan. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Absolutely.
First of all, let me address the first thing that you said, that Paul and DJ Max has nothing to do with the node, okay? First of all, that came out of your mouth when you spoke in the last 3 meetings, when you were asking DJ Max to finish the process of whatever node or process that needed to be done. That's one, okay? And that came out of you without you not noticing. And that's why DJ Max laughed when you put him in the spot. Second, yes, I was just banned when I was going to respond to you when I said questions do not raise FUDs. If you sincerely and transparent answer the question and put the person at ease. Okay, I don't need to ban anybody or shut anybody down when they're asking me a question and I have the answer for it. And if I don't have it, I will sincerely say I don't have the answer for the question. But not get mad and pissed off and start shutting people down. You guys already shut more than 4 people down. So do not say you're not banning people, because you are banning people on a chat room that's supposed to be for the FSTSwap project. Now, I'm going to help you understand where you guys made the mistake. Is by using the FSTSwap project room chat to bring your project of the node. You mix them both, and now we don't have no clarity. And that's where the problem came. To be honest to you, that's where the problem I see and many others do. All right. So I think you guys are taking this thing personal. I think you guys should have opened either a new room for the English node and leave the FSTSwap alone for the community to ask the questions they have or their concerns in any way, shape, or form they feel like it, or they know best to, right? Who are we to judge anybody the way they're asking or what they're asking? Who are you to dictate whether they're asking the right questions or not? And you said something about this room is strictly for this. Who says that? Who dictates that this room is for what? Because, Carlos, with all due respect, brother, this became more of a politic dictatorship than anything else. Because people can no longer ask questions they want to ask. They really want to ask. And Paul, and let me touch on this again. Paul has not been a true man to the community, and I'll tell you why. And I have respect for everybody. But when you're not doing right, you're not doing right. And that's because we have not heard from Paul. Paul have not come into your calls the past couple calls. DJ Max attempted the other day, and I don't know what happened. We never heard from them. So, the things and the actions that you are doing are speaking other than what you're saying. Okay? And, dude, I'm not speaking out of my ass here. Okay, I have a lot of experience and I know what I'm talking about because I have studied very carefully everything that is going on. And I'm not saying you guys mean wrong or bad or anything at all. I just think, like I said, you guys made a big mistake when you guys brought your English node into the FSTSwap project, because it has nothing to do with the FSTSwap project. It does and it doesn't, right? Because it's more of a private identity building a node than being actually in the FSTSwap project, if you know what I mean. So I think that's where the confusion came, because now you guys are recruiting and speaking more about your node than anything else. And nothing wrong with that, bro. Nothing wrong with that. But that should be on your own chat, not on the FSTSwap English swap chat that is for the FSTSwap project. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Coming to your calls. Here coming to your calls to hear nonsense. I'm sorry what I'm saying, but because it has nothing to do with my interest and a lot of us that are worrying about the project itself, not your node. So that's where that comes, right? That's where that came. So now we're asking questions about the FSTSwap project, and I feel like if it has nothing to do with contributing to your projects, then we're being banned. We don't want to be heard. That's my feeling there. And lots of us are sharing the same feeling. And I really believe that that's the biggest mistake was that, you guys didn't separate yourselves from English node to the FSTSwap project. You guys combined both of them together. Maybe, lots of us can say you tried to look for leverage, right? But I want to believe that wasn't the case, right? But it doesn't make sense. I mean, none of these calls that you guys are having lately has nothing to do with a project. There's no updates to the project. There is no updates. I haven't heard any updates. I haven't heard Paul. I haven't heard DJ Mac. I haven't heard none of this. And last understanding was only Paul, the liaison between China and us. Now it's DJ Max. Lots of us weren't aware of that. We assumed it, and somehow it was confirmed, right? By you guys as well. So that's where my confusion is, brother. And I think it's very disrespectful that you guys are shutting people down. Whoever is controlling the room has no heart to me. I have no respect for that person, because it feels so much that we're asking the right questions. It's not the right question for you guys. And that's not fair. That's very unfair. So there's a lot of things going on here. And that's why I wrote what I wrote. Because I think whoever's running the room is abusing his power. And as somewhat it feels like he has power over a room, but it's okay. There's one that sees it all and knows it all. So I have no problem with that, but I had to address this because I don't think you guys are seeing what others are. So with that said, I rest my peace, guys.
I appreciate everything you said. I took into consideration everything you said. But let's start off by saying that I didn't realize that I said Max was part of the node. All I did was ask Max to explain the process. Not, Max, tell them about our node. Max, tell them about the English node and how that's going to help us. So going to the node, first and foremost, you see how you said, where's Paul, where's Max, right? So everyone's following the bird. Like I don't rely on Paul, I don't rely on Max. If they come, it's a blessing, it's a cherry on top. Yes, it gives more confidence to the community. In the meantime, the developers are in control of this, and I'm following the bird. So if I'm up at 3:01 in the morning and that notice comes on at 3:02 in the morning, I'd like to post it. I'd like to say, hey, here's the news. This is how I interpret what they said on the Bluebird, which is Twitter. After that, we get to post this stuff and say, hey, this is what's the development. As you know, and you're educated enough to know that in any investment and in crypto and stock markets, things go up, down, or sideways to consolidate. During the consolidation period, it doesn't mean that the developers aren't hard at work doing what they do. They probably just don't have anything to report because there's nothing finished. So I think we've been spoiled with the speed of these developers. And as soon as they stop reporting, or as soon as they don't bring an update, we get a little antsy and say, where are the developers? Where's Paul? Where's Max? I don't think that 2 months go by and you don't hear anything from a developer, from Max. And maybe that's the question. If you were running this project, Jonathan, how would you want the updates to come? Every 2 days, every night, every week? What is sufficient in your mind? And I'm pretty sure that everybody isn't at the same expectancy as you, because I don't want to get a tweet every minute about what they're doing. I'd rather them be hard at work doing what they're doing. We know that they're doing something with GameFi. That's news. I'm not sure how that's not news to people. So GameFi has been the thing that we talked about. We talked about the fact that there's more eyeballs. If you get on Twitter, you see how many likes come on to the fact that there's some new NFTs, whether it's our NFT or not. The fact that people have to buy Fist to exchange, the fact that people have to, that it brings eyeballs to be Binance Smart Chain itself is good for the overall project. Because if I could get you to Binance Smart Chain, I can get you to look at the healthy liquidity pools that we have. And if I do that, then there's interest because we're in the top 5 liquidity pools. So it's all relative. Just because we don't harp on FON or FIST or OSK doesn't mean that there isn't progress or there isn't attention, being brought to these projects. And then we have to ask ourselves, are we actively liking the Twitter comments? Are we writing on the Twitter comments? Sometimes we have to say, let's see what I'm doing. Let me get with my help. While the developers aren't responding or they aren't updating, what can I do in the meantime while I'm waiting for updates? So I think we pretty much got clear that, again, And I'd love for you to just ask Max or Paul the next time they're here. But they have nothing to do with the node at all. Secondly, you said we shouldn't be leveraging or bringing in personal node news. There's nothing personal about it. This is a project that is helping the community because we are bringing English speaking viewers to our channel. We're bringing them here. We're on YouTube. We're on Telegram, and we try to gather new callers here all the time to educate them. That's not news. We've been doing that for over a year. So there's no hidden agenda. There's no conspiracy theory of what our real motives are. This is what we're doing, and it is the place. Just so you understand, the FSTSwap channel is the place to promote the only English node. Now, if there was another English node, then you're right. Either we both, if someone comes out with another node, either both nodes get to speak about their node on that FSTSwap, if they're an English node, or no one speaks about the nodes. But since we're the only ones that actually made the sacrifice of not making money with our fist and taking 21,000 fists and putting them for a node for the better of the community, because one thing that can never be questioned with us is that this leadership has been heart first all the time. And I can speak for every one of us. Heart first. And with our intention, every single time we'd lose money before we'd lose the community. We'd lose money before we lose the confidence of the community, because they know our hearts are in the right place. They know that Breezy, Doris, Peter, they've been on support calls for free, helping them for over a year. This is not about money. This is about growing the community. And anyone that looks like they're not trying to grow the community just comes off as conflicting. You're slowing the process down. And I'm not saying you, but, and I don't know I don't have a tally on who's been thrown out. I don't know who's been thrown out. So if they've been thrown out, they've probably been talking a lot against what the objective of that FSTSwap is, which is to get new users and build their confidence. And that's what you have to do. You have to say, like you said, what are the rules of being on FSTSwap? English. What are the rules? Well, the rules are common sense. Are you coming on the FSTSwap to bring doubts or confusion to any new user that will come on to this platform? So that's why this platform is a fantastic platform to air anything out, because we don't get in the way of progress. Look at that FSTSwap as just progress. We're waiting for updates. Every now and then the little elephant comes on and he gives news. Fantastic. But I mean, I've said what I said. I want to open this up to the rest of the community, because this is a community call. It's not just a Jonathan and Carlos call. So if anybody in the community has anything that they want to say, maybe they want to speak on behalf of them understanding Jonathan's views, so we could all be more clear in our intention, please come on the call and let us know how you feel. This is the time. So this is a community call. The rest of the community, we have someone. Jonathan has his hand up. Okay, Jonathan, go ahead.
Brother, I have one question, and this concerns of all, right? The liquidity pool on the FSTSwap was at $1.5 billion. It is about $875 million. Do you know what's going on there? That's a big chunk of millions.
It is. And
You know what's going on in there?
and the reason why we had the call yesterday and Monday, we talked about sentiment, and we talked about how the 6 things that could make investors and people in this arena of crypto lose confidence. And it was regulation, the war with Russia and Iraq, it was Bitcoin going down, it was Terra Luna, and it was a couple of other things. But obviously, and inflation. So when you couple all those things, it's like hits after hits after hits. Thon has gone from like $25 to $8. But if we believe that this is going to bounce back, then, we wait. I mean, I think, when they say, when some people say, how much of these NFTs are going to be worth? And people, that's going to be dictated by the market. So what you're seeing right now with the price action is being dictated by the market. The market sentiment is fear. We showed the fear and greed index, and it's at an extreme high in fear. So people are holding on to their pennies. They don't want to experiment. They don't want to trust crypto. So we might have some people that were in this project that left the project. We might have some people that are not, regularly dollar cost averaging anymore, as we all were before. So I don't have the specific answer, Jonathan, but my educated guess is that the sentiment of the market has changed dramatically. And I think it's affecting all of crypto.
So I'll give you a little information.
Yeah.
About a week ago, I was tracking all the liquidity pools. Within the day, say at 6 o'clock, I log in the last report. By 6 o'clock in the afternoon, there was $20 million out, just like that. And I know about the sentiment, and I know where the market is, and I know where we're in general. There was almost $20 million gone within the period of 9 to 10 hours. I made a phone call, and people reached people out. The $1.5 billion was back in the LP within few hours after that. All right. After that, a week after, we are in the same situation, but now we're dropping even more. Okay, so it's something to think about. I'm not racing anything here, but when you see this big drop, this numbers, right? And it has to raise a concern, Carlos. I understand what you're saying, and I totally take that in account. But you got to look at what's going on, what's happening. Why was the LP recuperated so fast? Why did it went back up so fast? What was being done, right? What is being done? So this is why we need reports. And I'm not saying reports every day, absolutely not. But when something like this happens, the community should be reported so we don't get alerts, right? Because it's a lot of money that is missing within hours. I'm not talking about days or weeks. I'm talking about within hours. So something must be going on, right? Could be that they're doing other things. But if we don't know, how are we gonna be at ease? See what I'm saying? So we're not, that's my other concern, that we have not been focusing on the main thing. Nobody talks about what really is concerned. Because I don't know about you, Carlos, but I'm concerned about this LP dropping dramatically like this. And I mean, I'm not demanding, but I would like to have some answers, and I know you cannot give me the answers because you're not the developer. I totally understand that. So who would have the power? Paul, DJ Max? Since they are the ones, communicating with them. So where are we in communication? See what I'm saying? So again, man, I have nothing against your node. I have nothing against anything, brother. Anything. I'm just concerned about these numbers. I'm concerned about the lack of information. That's all, man. At the end of the day, whoever do they as they wish. Yeah, right. I'm just trying to look out for what I can see and what I can ask for.
And we appreciate that. And I listen. I don't want this project to be the next Terra Luna, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think we're too
reading
strong for
about
that.
this. We want to be reading about this and be on the other end of the stick when we could have asked the questions, when we could have, been updated. So after this call, you have made me say, you know what? I personally haven't reached out to Paul, right? I personally haven't reached out to Max, but now you're lighting a fire in my ass to do so. I don't know what the rest of the leaders are going to do. And we obviously discussed that, after what's today? Today's Thursday. Our next call is Monday.
Right.
We got a couple of days to be like, hey, let's all get on Paul. Let's all get on Max and see if there's any updates, And
Right.
again, it's not about Paul and Max because they're investing just like us.
Sure. Right.
So we're just hoping that they use their influence for, good, right? Because we're all in a state of confusion and a state of, hey guys, what's going on? Because like you said, listen, for all we know, they come back and they say, hey, we just took $20 million out to put it into DeFi. Okay, well, just tell us that. To DeFi, I'm sorry, to GameFi.
Right.
Okay, tell us that you took the $21 million to develop a new sector in this project and get us excited with you.
Right.
With you. That's what happened. Maybe they did some stuff with the GameFi. Maybe they did some stuff with the NFTs. But keep us informed because it's going to make us tell more of our friends, Right now in the community, do we all 100% feel like we want to bring in more people? The answer is probably no, until we see the liquidity pool go back to its norm or at least trend in that direction. So I 100% am in your corner with that. Communication is key because communication is going to dictate the sentiment of this community, right? Forget about outside things that are happening. Forget about, we can't control the war in Russia. We can't control the political regulation that's coming. We can't control the manipulation with Bitcoin. Let's control what we can control. Let's control the sentiment in this community. Let's stay informed here so that we can feel good about this project and not have one foot in, one foot out, or we stop telling other people about it because we don't want our family and friends to be part of a rug pull. Even if we are willing to take the risk ourselves, which we're all doing that right now, right? Because we're all taking risks.
Sure.
But it's different when we start bringing our friends and family in. So if they want the project to grow, they need to give us answers. So you're 1,000% right. So in the next 4 days before Monday, I want to make sure that all of us are annoying all the people that we know that could give us those answers. So thank you for bringing that up. And that is a main concern. So I appreciate you.
Listen, I posted this before. That's why I was a little concerned that no one is concerned. Or I don't know, but you know what I mean, and you know where I come from, Carlos. It's not about demanding anything. It's about looking out for all of us, because that is a big drop. And like I said, what happened that day when it dropped within hours and it was back in there within hours, it was even more concerning to me. You know what I mean? Because while it was 20 million, it was almost exactly about 19 point something million dollars. And while was removed and then put back just because you heard somebody fussing and fussing about it. So
Yeah,
that concerns me. That concerns me. Now,
like you said, we all know, you and I both know, and a lot of people, Crypto Queen, Breezy, a couple of people that are more advanced know that would have to be a huge wallet, a couple of huge whales, or the the chances of it being 11 million different wallets takes a lot of coordination to do, right? So it's not a bunch of little people doing that. So there you go. So if that happened, and I wasn't aware of that, and I'm glad that you are our eyes. That's what we need, Jonathan, in this community, because I might be busy educating and doing XYZ, and Breezy and Peter are doing technical calls, but we have you watching liquidity pools. We want that. Make no mistake. We appreciate you. We want you here. And I'm glad you're doing that. I'm glad you brought this to the attention. This is probably one of the most important things happening this week is you coming on this call. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate what you do. I really do. But like I said, I think we're not. I think we need to focus a little more on what really is going on the big project, because that's going to affect every other thing that comes from it, including the English node, including Annie's node, including everything else. So yes, it must have been a big wallet, but my concern is of the action, not of the money, of the action. What was pull and pull back, and then now all the liquidity pools went down. As the main LP as well. We're at 875 million. And I think it's still dropping as we speak. So I don't know. I don't know. It's concerning to me, to be honest with you, because of the actions that are being done. But now it seems like, yes, I can say they might have took about more than 20 millions now to do something else. But what? What is it that they are doing? And that's what we don't know. And it's been happening now for days, but I'm just one person here and I can only send a message. But when nobody wants to follow through, then it is what it is.
Yeah, we have a hand raised from Minerva.
Thank you, Carlos.
Please.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
God bless you guys.
Thank you. God bless you, Jonathan.
All right, brother.
Hi, Carlos. It's Minerva. I think a lot of the frustration for me comes from when I joined the project, and I joined back in, I believe it was June of last year. We came from a culture where we were able to openly ask questions as much as we wanted, almost on a daily basis. So we had a platform for that. I'm not saying this is not the platform, but at least we were able to go into the chat and ask questions. And even if we didn't get the right answer then, we can get on a call. And we kind of moved away from that type of community. It felt more of a community, to be honest. This, I don't even know what to call it. It doesn't feel with the same momentum as we had back then. And just today we got the a message in the FSTSwap that we're not allowed to say anything about Pengu and this and that, but that type of stuff wasn't being said there. And if we want to ask those type of questions, where do we go? We have to wait for a call. So I think it would be helpful, and it's just a suggestion, maybe take a temperature of what people want to ask and bring it to your leadership calls, your leadership group, and maybe formulate an agenda of what should be discussed on the next call. It just seems like when we go to these Monday and Wednesday now, it's just about the node, as if there's nothing else to talk about. I just wanted to express that, because I'm frustrated too. Like, I want to ask questions, and if I can't get on a call, I missed 2 weeks. So I don't know what's going on, even though I do a lot of research myself, so I can pick back up. But for the benefit of people that come to the chat, we have more eyes in the chat than we do on the call. So where do we pose those questions for people that may want to have some interest in joining our group, but are not getting the benefit of the Zoom call? What do we do then?
Well, that's a great question. I do want to make clear that the FSTSwap, again, you understand.
Yes, I do understand.
Yeah, flooding the FSTSwap with questions and stuff like that, it's definitely not the place, right? So we have Wednesday, Thursday, Monday calls, right? And we try to accommodate people at night and accommodate people like now in the afternoon, right? So
Right.
hopefully people can catch up. There's nothing that can be asked. We know that. No one's gonna ever throw you out of this chat here because you've asked a sensitive question about Pangu or not, right? Bernard posted that in the chat today, and he said that he got it, he copied and pasted it from the China group. Now in the China group, they might be sensitive to those talks because of whatever politics happened with the splitting of different communities over there. But here, we're able to speak about it in these calls and in these chats because we all want to know, we all want to be informed. But I'll definitely bring that up to leadership between now and Monday to see if there's more time that we can give the community, because we do have a structure. Obviously, we come in, we want to acknowledge members that have been participating. We want to give away some fun. We want to make the calls fun and not so dry, right? We don't object to new news. When news comes, we can't wait to have new news come so that we could share it with the rest of the community. But in the meantime, we can't be held hostage to inactivity by the developers because they haven't reported something. Not saying that they're not busy working, but obviously they may not be as busy reporting as we all would like them to report, right? But we will definitely make a note of I can guarantee that we're going to have more time for the community to ask their questions and their concerns. And you know what? If we don't have those answers, fine. We'll address that. We don't have those answers, but we will make sure that we will ask those questions for Paul or Max or anyone else that's available to give us those answers to those questions. All right, so I hope that helps.
That's
And
helpful. I just that's one of the things I would like to see, because we used to do it before. You know, we had a scope of questions or something, you know, that we were looking forward to for the next call to come on, you know, like we had Wednesday NFT nights, like we have your call and you play videos. But we had something, okay, we had these questions posed tonight. Okay, Monday, we're going to try to get the answer for you. If not Monday, we're going to, you know, push it to the next day. But we had something, if I asked the question today, at least I knew by the next call, I might have an answer, I might have a partial answer, I might have someone to come on and speak. And it was helpful and it built momentum. Right now, you know, if I have my people, I'm telling them, well, there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on. And they have questions. At least I can come here and say, hey, listen, you know, these are the questions I would like you to take back and discuss with your group. And, you know, maybe we can address it. And that can, you know, minimize some of the frustration with not being able to ask it in FSTSwap, because we no longer have the other platform and we can't ask it in FSTSwap. Where do we come besides this call? So we're waiting. Okay, now we're waiting until Monday again. So what do we do in between? When there's people asking questions and we're trying to find answers. I can find the answers, but what about everybody else? You know, for the benefit of the group. That's what we were doing before, for the benefit of everybody. That was my only concern. And I will stop. I will, you know, leave the floor open for someone else. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate your concerns. And I appreciate you bringing that, you know, if you feel that way, you can't be the only one that feels that way, right? So you're a voice for all of us. So I appreciate you. Anybody else want to come in and ask any questions or address anything? I'm pretty sure there's people coming in to ask questions. Just interrupt me as I'm speaking now.
Hey, Carlos.
There you go.
Hey,
Talk.
hey, Carlos, David here. I'm sitting with Renee, so I've been listening to some of the conversation. I just wanted to chime in on a couple things, and I appreciate you guys who have shared your heart, your concern. And so just a couple things, and particularly to Minerva, thank you so much for your input, Minerva. Just as a community, I think, what I would ask is that collectively we appreciate that the project has and is going through an evolution. When we were first introduced to this project, it was Pangu, and there was Mr. Mo and these figureheads. There was a structure of where we got information from. There was no Twitter. There was no white paper to go to. And so, every piece of update, every piece of information we got, we had to get it through this pipeline of information. And part of what's happened in the last few months is that the project has evolved from that. Now everybody has access to the information that the developers are working on in real time as they choose to share it. So that means that there is less that we're bringing to a call that isn't already known to the community. Now, in terms of like asking questions, it seems like there's a sense that the questions aren't welcome in the FSTSwap chat. And in all fairness, I think that it's important. Let me mute you for a second, Carlos. I think it's important that we also appreciate that the transition the project has gone through, coming from the days of Pangu to where we are today and where the developers want to go. And it's important to understand the trauma and the challenges that has caused for a lot of people. There's been confusion. There've been groups going in different directions with different ideas. And so if the developers of FSTSwap have, want to set themselves up to be successful, then they've got to really get some laser focus around who FSTSwap is and who it's not. And so quieting some of the dissenting voices and the distractions and so forth has been an important part of how they've accomplished that in the Chinese community. There was a period of time there where it was total chaos in the Chinese community, and it was falling apart. People didn't know who to follow, who to listen to. And so they took a very heavy-handed approach to community management. And it's very different than what happened in Pangu, but they felt that it was necessary. Paul was a very integral part of that heavy-handed approach. And so that some of that also shows up in the English FSTSwap community. And it's really just establishing a very narrow frame of reference for the project. I imagine that evolves as the project continues to evolve. But for today, it's where we are, and it's kind of what we have to do in respect of where the project is. We're attracting people outside of our community in big ways. We're putting forth resources, time, energy, effort into doing so. And so the official channel that they come to, if they're an English speaker, it's that purpose needs to be able to talk positively about the project. That's the intent of the developers. Is we want people to have someplace they can go where all of the ideas are getting reinforced about what we want to accomplish. There's very little tolerance for what might be interpreted as FUD or dissenting argumentative positions. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have conversations. It's one of the things that makes these calls really useful, is that we can jump on these calls, we can have these conversations. And that hasn't changed. That's one of the beautiful things about what we do here. So I'm going to ask just if you guys would be understanding and patient in the process of transitioning from a less structured community into something that's a little bit more structured, maybe a lot more structured. But if you look at what we have today in FSTSwap, we have a DEX. A year ago, we had a story, right? A year ago, we were investing in an idea. Today, there's a real product that's putting out a real token that's making real cash in our accounts. So there's more structure around the project. Therefore, the way the community is run has to be a little bit more structured. And people are resistant to change. Change is difficult sometimes to swallow. And so we're going through that. For those of us who have either taken or been assigned or been asked to be a part of the leadership of that community, that's difficult to navigate. It is very difficult to navigate. because we know where we've come from. We hear all the different opinions, and we know what the intent of the leaders of the project are. And so we have a responsibility to the people that we've been serving for the last year plus, and then we have a responsibility to the project as well. So finding that balance is not an easy thing to do. And so I do appreciate those of you who've shared your thoughts and your opinions. Please feel free to ask your questions. We want and need and desire those questions, but we want to do it in such a way where it brings about a positive result. If it's a question about clarity, please ask the question. I think if it comes across as though there is a attack against the project, or we get into the weeds of personal politics, we just don't have space for that in the chat. And we'll make space either one-on-one. I'll always make myself available to members of the community. Anybody else that's in leadership will also do the same. So there's plenty of space for us to have these conversations. If there's questions or concerns or whatever, reach out to us, but let's try not to do it in the public chat. I'll hang around if there's questions that somebody wants to address while I'm here, but those are just a few thoughts I'm going to share with you guys.
Yes, I have another question. Do you think that some of the concerns that were voiced today can be discussed with more clarity on a future call?
I think the question that I heard most clearly today was Jonathan's question around the change in size of the liquidity pool.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a conversation we can have, and I'll use that as an example. So I heard that question come up on this call, but I haven't seen that question. That question wasn't posed in our Telegram room. If that question was posed in our Telegram room, that's great. We can entertain that. We can go get an answer. That's productive. That's not what we've seen, and so that's more than welcome. And yes, Minerva will definitely spend some time talking about it. I'll share my thoughts when that question comes up. Is as many of you know, that the OSK DAO community was delisted from the approved tokens or pairs in FSTSwap. When that happened, that all of that liquidity that was in that liquidity pool went with it. So that accounted for a significant shift in the dollar calculation that you're seeing in the liquidity pool. Beyond that, of course, we've had a lot of volatility in the markets in general, and we've been far less affected in FSTSwap than many other projects, but certainly it does have some impact on us when people's portfolios are shrinking. They look for ways that they start selling off things that they feel are risky, or whatever, any number of reasons. So I think the combination of those two things accounts for a lot of what we've seen in the movement of the liquidity pool. Does that help, Minerva?
Oh, yes. No, I understand. As long as it's, as long as we're having a discussion around things that are of concern, I welcome that. So I look forward to hearing more about it.
100%. Thank you. Thank you for speaking up. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Charles, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Everything sounds very nice what you say. It's very nice, well said. But let me ask you, who decides what's the right question to ask or not, if it's a damaging question or if it's not? Who decides that? I'm still trying to get that around my head. Who decides that?
Well, in any community,
there's obviously somebody moving buttons there. That whenever a question hits his button, he hits the button. That's what I'm getting to. Who decides what's the right question or not?
Yeah. So in any community, whether it's in Telegram or Discord or any place where people gather, Facebook, you're going to have administrators, moderators, and part of the job of the administrators and moderators is to maintain a certain culture within that space. And so it's always going to be up to the discretion of whoever those people are. In our community, there are administrators, moderators. I'm one of them, Carlos. I think you can go into the community and see who they are. There are some that are connected to the development team that are moderators as well. So there isn't one person. You framed the question as though there's a single individual, and that's not the case. So there's a number.
So you're telling me when a question comes in, there's 10 people reviewing the same question and they decide whether they delete it or not? Because my question was deleted pretty fast. And I was banned pretty fast because I was just answering questions or asking questions that had no FUDs on it, had nothing in it, but just simple, humble questions. But it felt like it hit their button and they hit the button.
Yeah, it's
So what are you saying? Because what you're saying is not making sense. Anything you said at the beginning does not make any sense. You made it sound very nice and friendly. Yes, you did, sir. But it makes no sense what you guys are doing and act the way you guys acting on the chat room.
Jonathan, this is an example. Right now, this conversation for me, it just feels argumentative, right?
That's right. That's right. Everything is argumentative to you, buddy. Everything
what do
is.
you?
But you have a blessed day. Thank you.
I'm giving you a straight answer, and you might not like it, but it is the truth. There are numerous people that manage the chat room, and no, we don't consensus around every decision that's made, and quite frankly, very few posts that aren't obvious are discussed. Obvious posts that are removed are things that are not written in English or things that are promotional in nature. Nobody has to have a meeting about that. Some things are a little more challenging than others. Quite frankly, I'll be honest and I saw Bernard's post this morning and I had to question whether or not to leave it or remove it because I thought that it might create a little bit of confusion, and clearly it did. And so you're dealing with a very delicate situation. You're dealing with a community that's in transition. You're dealing with a project that's in transition. They're not always easy answers to these questions, but our responsibility is to protect the culture of the project, to protect the integrity of the story around the project. So we do that, and we're also trying at the same time to give space for people to express themselves. So in that case, we left the post that Bernard put up, could have deleted it, but didn't. It created a little confusion. Okay, now we're here and we're having this conversation. It's not going to be perfect, my friend. It's sometimes you make a call, you look back at it, and maybe you made a different call. Sometimes you make a call, everybody else disagrees with you, but they don't have the benefit of some of the information that you have. This is the challenge always of leadership. It's the hard decisions that you have to make that affect people and the way people feel about it. I think I'll echo what Carlos said a little bit earlier is, if you've been in this community, you've been around us, hopefully you get a sense that at least our intent is to do the best that we can to serve the people that show up here. That's it. That's what I rest my hat on every day. Anybody else? Guys, I appreciate you. I'd love to continue this dialogue. We're going to continue to work to do our best to serve this community. I believe that in doing so, it protects our own investments. The best way to protect our investments in this project is to understand it, become empowered around it, empower ourselves by getting clarity. The clarity comes from asking questions, ask those questions. If it doesn't go well in the public room, don't be offended by it. Ask it in private. Reach out to any one of the leaders or admins and just say, hey, I asked this question and got removed. Can we have this conversation? There are many channels to get to what you're looking for. And so I'm going to ask for all of us to be patient in the process. I think we have an amazing project. It's far more amazing than when it was when I was first introduced to it over a year ago. And so I'm going to ask for you guys to be patient and understand the challenges of a community in transition. But know that we're working diligently. We're having, I won't even go into the details, but just know that we're working diligently to build a better, bigger, better, more stable community, which ultimately benefits all of us who are invested in this project. Carlos, I'm going to kick it back to you. If there's no other questions for me, guys, I appreciate you giving me a few minutes. Hey, Gino.
Go ahead, Gino.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Sorry, I'm in a bad area. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay, perfect. Good day, everyone. I just want to I missed the first hour of the call. Unfortunately, I'll have to pick things up after. But very quickly, any news regarding the PG NFTs and the blind box or anything like that from the developers? I know that they've been working on it and they said it's coming soon. But is there any dates that they've discussed, or nobody knows much about it yet?
Nothing has been announced yet. What we're working on is an AMA with the developers that we've gotten us a commitment that they'll do an AMA for our community coming up here shortly. So I'm sure they're prepared to get that question asked of them. And if we don't have an answer before then look for that announcement on an AMA coming soon.
Okay, thanks. And lastly, why the price drop again today? It's just everybody has a little bit of fear. Is that what you're thinking? Because the market, what's going on in the market today?
Yeah, I'm not one to speculate personally.
Yeah,
so I may not be the best one to answer that question, but certainly what's happening in the market has some impact on our project. I look at it from the perspective of comparing to other projects and other tokens in the market. It's impacting us far less than if I were holding Bitcoin at the moment. And so, we're definitely not immune to it. At the end of the day, this project is made up of real people that have lives and situations that they've got to handle. And when the market is shaken up the way that it is, it affects all kinds of areas of people's lives. And so, do they have less confidence in this project, less tolerance? They want to reduce their risk. Could be any one of those things. Beyond that, me, Gino, I'm not one to really speculate.
But
Part of what we talked about in the last two calls is when we asked that question of to consider, are the fundamentals of the project, are they still sound? Have they changed in any significant way? And as long as those core things that are fundamentals in the project remain intact, for me personally, I remain confident in the project.
Yeah, so do I. It's just a question about what your thoughts were. That's all. All right, guys. I believe in the project. We're all in. We're all happy. So let's hope that things start to move in the right direction in the near future. Have a great day.
Thanks, Gino.
But David, can you also address the fact that, because you touched on it very lightly, but you addressed the removal of the OSK DAO. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so there was a couple of weeks ago, and I don't have a lot of details around it, but a couple of weeks ago, there was an announcement, and this is partly how the PG NFTs, the announcement was around the PG NFTs, and the community or the project that was initially slated to handle the development of those was the OSK DAO. They were working in collaboration with that community to develop the PG NFTs. And we don't know the details behind why, but they decided to go their separate ways. And so that OSK DAO was, I believe, at the time, the second or third largest liquidity pool in FSTSwap. And so I don't know if they're still in FSTSwap and they're just simply delisted so they don't get counted in the total liquidity, or if they've moved the project totally off of FSTSwap somewhere else. That I don't know, but I do know that it no longer shows up in the total liquidity in FSTSwap. And they accounted for a few $100 million.
Great. So a few $100 million missing, and that accounts for that. That answers some of the downward trend on the pricing. So I appreciate that. So guys, we have been on the call for an hour and 40 minutes, which is amazing. We had about 20 people. We have 15. So Gino's back. Talk to me, Gino.
Sorry, very quickly. We're talking about a couple of 100 million missing. Is there any answers to where this couple of 100 million went?
Yeah, that's an entire community, right? So the community itself decided to either go off chain. Who knows if they went to a Tron network, if they went to another network, right? But they've been delisted. So it'd be some research, right, for us to all kind of like try to see if they have their own Twitter account and follow where they went. But for now, we don't know where they went. We do know that they helped us with our numbers. When people looked at our project, there was a bigger, greater sense of confidence that we were a much stabler liquidity pool. And nothing to sneeze at. Us having 800 million in liquidity, and I'm not sure if that's the exact number. I just know that Jonathan threw that number before. I do know that that is still a very large and healthy liquidity pool that we have. It just helped that they were part of our liquidity pool. So right now we don't know where they're at, but we do know that they're not accounting for our liquidity anymore. But it doesn't mean in any way, Gino, that that money was developers taking money or whales that left the project. It just means that an entire community left our liquidity pool. I hope that helps. Does that help?
No, it does. Yeah, it does. So thank you. I'm just so curious to I'm wondering why they would leave our liquidity pool at this present time. We just scraped the surface right now. So.
Yeah, why? I mean, why? The big question of why is exactly why we are doing nodes, right? And we're doing a DAO, is because, maybe they thought their voices weren't being heard. And they said, we're going to take our money elsewhere. Maybe they saw that the project was going in a different direction. I mean, when you take yourself, right, the first thing you asked for was NFTs. I remember feeling in this project when everybody had OSK and they were doing 1,022 things with OSK. I had 0 OSK. So you know what? I had 0 interest in where this project was going with OSK because I had no skin in the game until 225. When 225 happened, I got to reload and get back into the game and buy some OSK. So my interest peaked again. So whenever that's why I'm diversified enough, and I'm just speaking for myself. I have FIST, I have OSK, I have FON, I have the NFT. As long as they're working on something, I don't care where they start, where they finish, as long as there's progress, right? But we all know that they can't do everything at the same time. So they're going to concentrate on one thing. David said a beautiful thing. He said, this used to be a story and an idea. and it's amazing to see the things we see now. So there's a Gino pushing for NFTs. I have more FIST than anything else. So there's a Carlos pushing for FIST. And there's a Breezy probably pushing for OSK because she's got more OSK. And then there's a Bernard that has an NFT or two that's like, hey, I want to know what's going on with the NFTs. And it might be a Doris that's like, hey, I have a lot of FON. So all of us have a voice and we all wanted to go somewhere. Once we start this DAO voting process and the developers leave this to us, it's really going to be, all right, guys, your votes are going to count. This is the first order of business. There's going to be proposals. There's going to be something that's going to say, guys, we now have $1 billion in liquidity as a community. Where would we like to allocate our money first? Are we going to go into GameFi? There might be some people that are fearful because we've learned so many things that we don't want to do the new thing. The new thing is GameFi. And then there's other people that are like, hey, I've seen everything consolidate. I'm game to do some GameFi to see if we make some money fast. So there's going to be, David said it, tolerance levels, right? You got a tolerance level. You have people's, plan of action with their investment. So we're all going to be pushing towards our own investments, right? So this is what the node system does, and that's why it's important to know, who you vote for. It's I love Annie. I don't know what her views are with if we're going to go push OSK or FIST or whatever. I might like, the 4th node that's up there because he has a pretty name. I don't know. Maybe he calls himself the New York Knicks, and I'm a Knicks fan, and I'm like, I'm voting for the New York Knicks node. But are his intentions aligned with my investment? That's what it's going to boil down to, you know? And if we can't communicate with those people in China, who knows what they're doing, right? So since we could communicate here, and I know that the English node is doing XYZ, I feel comfortable. I want, you know, listen, we all come from a centralized place where we all want and got comfortable with customer service, right? What's the issue right now? We don't know what the developers are doing. We are waiting for the developers. So we're trying to bridge that gap here by building a strong enough community where we'll have more eyes on the Bluebird. We'll have more, you know, more guys like Jonathan diving deep into why wallets are being moved, you know? Sanjeev is one that's very technical. I'm sure, you know, he's looking at different numbers too. He's very good with the calculator. He's looking at, Peter's looking at the voting system. I love that Peter's doing that. Peter's like, let's see how do you vote, and how does that matter? So I think we all play a big part in here, and as long as we maintain positive, we maintain constructive, and we make other people want to join our community, you know. Minerva came on and she's like, hey, you know, we used to be a certain way and now we are drifting, right? We want, you know, she asked for more communication, more calls, another platform to be able to ask for those questions, or some more time on the calls, right? So we want to accommodate everything. We really do. You know, it could be me, Breezy, and David talking, and Peter just talking to each other. Or we can have a Gino, a Jonathan, a Minerva, my bad. So I'm glad you guys all are taking this time to address your opinions. So thank you, Gino. Renee has her hand up.
Hey, yeah, actually it's David. I just, while we're still on the call, I wanted to ask a question of Minerva, if that's okay. I remember, I heard you make a statement about feeling like we were spending a lot of time talking about the English node. And this isn't necessarily pointed at you specifically, but I would like you to weigh in since you brought up the topic. I'm curious, genuinely curious about, as a member of the English speaking community taking part in this project, for me, it feels somewhat obvious that the English international community node exists to serve your interests and to give you voice. So do you feel like there's a conflict in having that discussion around a node that is designed to represent you on our calls?
No, I don't feel there's a conflict. And I'm not saying you're taking up a large amount of time doing that. It's just that for some of the people that I brought into the previous project, there might be, let's say, some time where it's harder for them to understand. So I take a lot of time explaining things to them outside of this platform. And yes, you do take a lot of time talking about the node because that's where we're at right now. However, I was, you know, the way that it was done, and I know we're not going back there, is just that I have other questions outside of the node. And if we're on a call where that's being discussed, I don't want to bring up, like we're having a discussion today. I didn't think that was the platform on a Monday or Wednesday night to bring that up if, you know, you're talking about nodes. And then when you're talking about nodes, I think there's a lot of confusion about that. So that could be addressed on the nights when we're talking about nodes, but it just seems like those are the only 2 nights other than this platform now. What about the stuff that's in between? You know, there's a lot of other stuff going on. What about the other stuff in between that I have to explain to other people? That was my only concern. But no, I think we need a platform where the English speaking community or the community that was built around our community has a platform and a voice to have some influence over the project. I do believe that.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate your input. And guys, I don't profess to have all the answers. I don't think anybody in our leadership team does. So we're looking to figure it out. Like, our objective is to be of service to the community, to help people understand the opportunity, to make it as simple as possible for them to participate. And part of how we do that is building resources so that we can duplicate ourselves, so that it's not totally dependent on somebody coming onto a call. So we have that activity happening, developing the site and so forth. But your input is critically important. Like, I just can't encourage you guys enough that if there's a question, ask it, please. If it's not appropriate to ask it on a live call, reach out to us in private. If it feels uncomfortable asking it in the Telegram room, or it's not received in the Telegram room, like, it's never personal. There's nothing personal here. It's us just trying to figure out the best way to take all of us to the next destination safely. And so please, I encourage all of you. Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. Yeah. Thank you for that, Manur. Hey, Gino.
Yeah, very quickly, just to add to that, I really think I know that people that I brought into the group, they just left their funds into FIST, and that's that, and they don't want to hear anything else anymore, and they're just waiting for FIST to go up. And I'm trying to explain to them that they're losing opportunities to make fun on a daily basis. But I think I'm falling on deaf ears, which is fine. I've given up. I'm doing me, but I tried my best to help them. I think if we had someone, I don't know who the person could be, but somebody who makes maybe a video of how everybody can benefit in this group by mining their fund, by mining their FIST and putting it into liquidity pool, then mining FIST USDT or FIST OSK, whatever they want to do to get fund. That would be very helpful for everybody, because then you could just simply pass the video over, and it can't be long and boring. It has to be quick and to the point, so people can see what's going on, and then they can maybe make a decision if they want to create more fun for themselves. Just my 2 cents there.
100% agree with you, and those are some of the things that we're working on. You were on a call last night, so you got a sneak peek of the calculator. If you guys haven't seen the calculator, we're developing a calculator that tells the story of the numbers of the project, and so all of those things are part of the way we serve the community. Is how do we help re-engage people that are here? For us as a node, that's important, because that means there's votes that are sitting around. And so we're building those tools for our existing community, and we're building it for folks who are going to be introduced to the project to make it easy for them to understand. So those things are coming. Obviously, as you guys know, it takes time and energy, and we volunteer this time and the resources to put these things together. And many of you know I am deeply involved in another project, and so all of that's coming, and certainly getting into the top 37 is an important part of how we speed this process up, because once there's a budget in place, we've got a really detailed plan that we can start executing that would speed up the production of some of the things that we desire to do. But I thank you for your input, Gino. Definitely we have some things in the works, so give us a little bit of time.
And I want to say one important thing, Gino. You said it can't be long and boring, so I won't be doing the video. I will not be volunteering for the video. So we can rest assured that won't be me. Thank you, Gino. I appreciate you.
Hey, speaking of that, one of the things that we will do, we talked about, is we're gonna launch a podcast with Carlos, and obviously Carlos is hilarious and a lot of fun to hang around and be with. And part of, I think, what was touched on today was there was a certain element to our community where we could just kind of hang out with each other. We had an amazing New Year's party. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate, but we get together and hang out and do those kinds of things. And so look out for some information coming on a podcast. We'll ask you guys to be a part of it, be guests, share your stories about this project and about your journey in crypto in general. So that'll be a fun, engaging thing that we can do. We've launched a YouTube channel, which we didn't do with Pangu for a number of reasons. We are doing that with FSTSwap, so it gives us a lot more visibility. We're making we're developing relationships, key strategic relationships with influencers who can who can intelligently tell the story of what's going on in this project to large audiences. We have a couple of those meetings already scheduled. So a lot of stuff happening in the background, and all of it with the intent of building a better, bigger, more vibrant English-speaking community for FSTSwap.
Yeah, there's so many people that we need to get onto this. There's so many corners of the world that we haven't touched, so I always play a lot of those videos with Guy from the Coin Bureau. I mean, how cool it would be to get the UK community to have interest in FSTSwap, those are things that we want to work on to have a broader audience, right? Broader audience means that we'll have more investors, more confidence, and I can't wait. I can't wait to help any way I can. So thank you guys. Guys, with that said, we're running into 2 o'clock from 12 o'clock. I'm honored that you guys stayed this long. I mean, it speaks volumes for, the passion that we have for this project. And we love passion. If one thing we love passion. We love hearing Breezy cry, me cry. We've had Breezy cry, me cry on here. We've had a lot of ups and downs, and it's amazing. It's amazing, this community we have. So thanks again, David. Thank you for your clarity. Thank you for your honesty. That's one thing that we always get from you, no matter what. You're going to give it to us the way it is, whether we like it or not. And I appreciate that from you 1,000%. That's about it. Anybody have any music for us to leave to? Crypto Queen, if you're still on with us, or Breezy? Because you guys don't want to hear me beatbox again. I can.
Okay.
Thanks, Crypto Queen.
No worries.
Recuerdo el día en que te conocí, tu sonrisa después de decir que sí. Me besaste y en el aire me mecí.